Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the IGC podcast. We thank you for joining us again. If you're a first-time tuner in, thanks for joining us, and hopefully you'll enjoy the conversation we're about to have. I just want to thank everybody, first off, for subscribing to the podcast and liking us on Facebook, following us on Twitter, and just getting the word out there. We are getting a higher subscriber count, and I just appreciate everybody getting the word out there, because all we're trying to do is bring out good information and have good conversations. Today we are going to be sponsored by Beauty and Splendor. Yeah, I know it's we're still not selling out here, but part of what we're going to be discussing today is photography, mountains, travel, inspiration for people. So I figured that was fitting. Photography really brings out the best in beauty and splendor, I would imagine. I'll introduce my guests for today. Well, first off, I'm Jason Abbott. Sorry for the lack of introduction on myself. I'll be hosting it today. I have two guests today. One is Chuck Erle. He's a Coloradan, and he operates Image Dimension Photography part-time. He lives a healthy lifestyle and likes to post a lot of stuff on Facebook about getting out there and getting active, and he is a 14er fanatic. If you don't know what a 14er is, we'll be discussing that later, but it is a mountain that's above 14,000 feet. Most of those reside in Colorado. We do have a few in California, and of course, Alaska carries a bulk of everything above 14,000 feet. Our other guest today is Jamie VanBuhler. She is a Michigander that was transplanted to the Seattle area. She's a graduate of Western Michigan University. She operates Visual Life Photography full-time, and she actually, within the last year or so, she had been called the Burning Man chick at one point.
Just amongst the hospitals.
Right. Well, now you're known as it, so
yeah,
sorry about that. It's out there.
Not really. I've only been once, and I made it 3 days.
She went through some major trauma with some leg issues. We'll get into that in a little bit. And this girl I've known for a long time. We're friends from way back in the day, high school days.
We used to work at Boston Chicken.
Boston Chicken, not Boston Market.
Yeah, before it was known as Boston Market.
That's right. We're Greasy Chickenites.
Does that date us?
Yeah, it probably does, but I don't really give a shit. But she is an eternal optimist. This girl's always smiling. If you check out her Facebook page, just really, she's not a downer at all. So, welcome to the show, Chuck. Welcome to the show, Jamie. I'm glad both of you can make it today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you, Jason.
Why don't you guys give us a little bit of a rundown on a little bit of history of yourself. I gave you a little bit of an introduction, Chuck. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about you, if you would?
Yeah, thank you, Jason. It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me, and it's nice meeting Jamie as well. So I am a Colorado native. We were just talking about that before we came on. I was born in California, but transplanted here when I was a toddler. And some of my most impressionable memories were growing up as a kid. My father would take us camping often into the mountains, the Colorado mountains. And he'd show us how to build a fire and cook food, and we would hike during the day and sleep in a tent at night. And smelling the pine and the fresh air and seeing the mountain lakes and the snow-capped mountains all around us was something that always stuck in my mind. And as I grew up, I was always attracted to the west, to the mountains. And eventually, when I was able to drive and travel with my friends and get out on my own, I started hiking the mountains with a camera. And I would take photos of these landscapes that were just incredible. I thought at the time that no one else had seen these landscapes. So I was photographing them, and I was bringing back these pictures, and I was saying, hey, take a look at this stuff. And people thought it was cool. And the more I hiked and the more I got involved in the wilderness, the higher in elevation I got. And I learned that there were these huge mountains, these tall 14,000-foot peaks, taller than 14,000 foot sometimes. And to get to the top of those, I could take pictures from there, panoramas, and to bring back the picture and say, hey, check out this place. Was really neat. So it just kind of stuck with me, and that's what I've been doing for quite a while. With the flourishing social networking, Facebook, Twitter, and things like that, you can create a network of friends and fans and followers and connect old elementary school buddies and high school buddies and make new friends. And this network just kind of expands like an amoeba. And I put my stuff out there. I put the photos out there. And I talk about things. And that's pretty much an encapsulation of where I came from and what I'm doing now.
So would it be fair to say that your inspiration for photography was pretty much enhanced by the wilderness?
I would say it was images and subjects that I thought were less seen by most people. I mean, you flip through a book and you see sunsets and you see green trees and you see bridges and you see the ocean. And I thought I was bringing something kind of unique. These large, broad landscapes up in the hills, up on summits. And I guess you could say it was something that I thought wasn't very mainstream. I mean, there's billions and billions of photos out there now that you can just surf on the internet until you die. And I'm sure there's a lot of landscape pictures out there, but at the time I thought it was something unique.
Cool. Jamie, what was it that attracted you to photography? When did all that kick off for you?
Well, I went to school for fine art, and I didn't know what area of fine art that I wanted to dive into, but I was very intrigued about photography. I always had a camera in my hand growing up.
This is pre-digital, right?
This is all film. In fact, I lived in the dinosaur age of film for a lot longer. I held on to that for a very long time. I got my first digital camera just in 2010.
Wow.
Yeah. It took a few semesters before I could take my first photo class. They filled up all the time. And as the university goes, the higher you're up, the earlier you can register for the classes. And I took all sorts of different art classes, but when I took my first photo class, I fell in love. Black and white darkroom, processing my own negatives and printing my own prints. And this is what I wanted to spend the rest of my life doing.
That's cool. Since you changed over to digital, how has that affected your relationship with your photography? And do you miss being in a dark room? And how do you go about editing now?
I do miss the dark room. That was my sanctuary. I used to spend hours and hours in the dark room. And the work that I did, because I went to school to put my stuff up in galleries. You can't make a living doing that, but it's something I loved. And the projects I would work on were very personal. So my time in the dark room was my space and the way I kind of released everything. And I went to school almost full-time. I went to school full-time and I worked almost full-time. And then I would, in the BFA program, Bachelor of Fine Arts program, I had to submit to be able to be a part of that program. I had keys to the building, so I'd be in the darkroom sometimes till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, blasting my music, doing my thing. So I do miss it. It was very difficult for me to, I was a very film advocate, and very difficult for me to make the switch. But now that I made the switch, I'm in love with it.
Right.
I told myself I wasn't going to do digital until they made cameras that were capable of comparing to what a negative can offer. And now my computer is I have a digital darkroom instead of the actual darkroom. But the brilliant thing about it is that I can travel anywhere with my camera and my computer, and I can work anywhere. Right.
Chuck, how about you? Did you get involved with film prior to digital, and how was that transition for you?
Yeah, I did. When I was younger in elementary school, we had this cheap little Honeywell camera, and my mom gave me, and it had a little film roll in it, and I thought that was cool. And I really didn't know what I was doing with it. I was just snapping what I thought were these cool compositions. But when I was in 8th grade, I had ran home from school to lunch. We had a school that was close by. And when I was on my way back to school, I was running across the street, and I saw this big chunk of what I thought was this rubber debris that had fallen off of the truck. And as I had gotten closer, it was a camera case. It was a Pentax camera case. And I opened it up, and it was this Pentax ME Super. It was an SLR at the time. And I thought it was the neatest find ever. My dad made me put an ad in the paper that we had found a camera, and for weeks I was hoping that nobody would call the ad and claim it.
And did they?
And nobody did.
Oh, cool. Bonus for you, right?
Yeah, and I had spent so much money on film.
It's very expensive.
Yeah.
Sticking rolls in that damn thing for years and years and years. I would always take my rolls down to a photo finisher, and that was before there were 1 hour photo maps. So I'd wait a couple of days, and I'd get my pictures back, and some of them really sucked. I thought, oh my God, there has to be a better way to take a picture, or there has to be a better photo finishing shop or something. But I never got into developing film myself. I had to master the camera to render the image that my eye saw or that my brain saw. And that was always tough. Because on the fly, when you have film, some of it's a crapshoot. You think you have the right lighting and exposure and focal range all dialed in, and you get your image back, and it's crap.
There is an art to printing from film, and if you're a really good printer, you can pull an image out of a crappy negative, but it's no fun.
I wish I would have known Jamie at that time.
I would never let anybody else touch my my film. I in order to get the print to look the way that I wanted to look, I needed to have control of.
So you're a film Nazi is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay. It's enough said. Like, we get it. So I wanted to ask you guys, and I hope I spark some kind of anger in you, because I'm sure you guys hear it all the time, but when people look at your photographs and say, God damn, that's a great picture, you must have an awesome camera.
Yes.
Right? It's all the camera, right? It has nothing to do with anything going behind the eyes, right?
Nothing.
Yeah, they say, what are you using?
I actually, I wonder if I can find it real quick, but I posted something pretty funny that I had found, and it has to do exactly with what you're talking about on my Visual Life Photography page.
There's a shout out, guys, right there.
Yeah.
There's your first shout out. She's pimping it already.
But it's about somebody that goes to a party, and that's exactly what he hears, wow, your pictures are always so awesome. You must have a fantastic camera. And by the end of the dinner, he tells the cook, wow, that meal was so great. You must have an awesome oven.
Right. I've seen that. That's good. So what do you guys, we're talking about gear. What kind of gear do you use?
I'm a Canon user. I use, definitely, I've always been with Canon. In the film days, I had a medium format camera. I still have it. It's a Mamiya. I have worked with a medium format Pentax, but now my digital camera is a Canon 7D. Still hold on to my film stuff, but I use all digital now.
What's your piece, Chuck? What do you roll with?
Yeah, so it's a good question. When I started developing photos digitally, I was using a point and shoot. There was a Sony, what's it called? Cyber, Sony Cyber something. And I realized that I could pull a spectacular image through the photo processor on the computer with the image that came out of the Sony. And so then I kind of moved up to another Sony. It's the Sony A series. It's an A230. It's a piece of equipment that's probably 10 years old. And I take that with me now everywhere, when I hike or when I go downtown or if I go to a birthday party, or if there's an event somewhere. I usually take that with me. It's very light. I interchange 2 lenses only. It's not very complex. I did use a Canon and a Nikon for a while. My brother-in-law is into photography and has a lot of equipment, and I wasn't able to master those, or maybe I wasn't patient enough to master those as quickly as I liked. So I really haven't moved away from that old 10-year piece that I have, which is that Sony A230.
Gotcha. Well, while we're talking about, what's going on behind the eyes and how to get a good photograph, um, what gives us the biggest impact on your photographs? Is it the moments that you submerge yourself in, or is it the situation you're in? Like where does it pop out of?
Kind of depends on the situation.
Okay.
Yeah. Definitely, obviously, certain places and moments and experiences. But is your question on how to get and capture a great?
Yeah, pretty much. Let's say, well, Jamie, you work with a lot of photo shoots where you're working with people directly, right?
I love working with people. Yeah.
So do you think it's important to connect with your subject on a one-on-one basis or a one-on-a-family basis, or?
Yeah, it's very important to get that subject, that person, to feel comfortable in front of your lens. I'm a photographer, and I get nervous in front of people's cameras. And it's, the first thing to do is to get them, the person or the family or the child, comfortable with you, and to loosen them up and have them be as natural as possible.
Chuck, when you're taking photographs of the mountains and there's not really any individuals in the picture, how do you connect with that? I mean, obviously, I've been in the mountains, you've been on the mountains, and Jamie, you've been in the mountains too. So there's a natural connection with the land when we're out there. But is there something above and beyond that you typically try and shoot for or feel before you take a photograph, or do you get connected in a certain way?
Yeah, it's all about the composition. At a very basic level, you'll be walking just near tree line, and you'll see some peaks come into view. So you might want to capture in the foreground the tall spruce trees, and then you'll align the mountain in the background. Maybe the moon is setting at that time in the morning, so you'll catch that in between those two images. That's something very basic.
Also,
we did a hike on a mountain called Harvard, and the forecast that morning was 70% rain. And we still went out there. Don't ask why.
Because you're crazy. That's why.
But the morning was filled with fog and clouds, and so the lighting was very opaque. And the images I captured that day were very rich, greens, browns, blues, and there was this seething, mystical, webby type of feel that entire day because of the low, wisping fog and clouds. So sometimes it'll surprise you what you can pull out of a photo when there's no people in it, and how your eye kind of composes the shot.
some of the most beautiful places are the most remote. And so the magic of being in a place that not very many people set their eyes on, and that you're there and you're experiencing it.
Something enchanting about it, right?
So enchanting and magical. And to try to portray that in a picture, it's hard.
Yeah, I mean, the problem I have, like, especially, while I'm in the mountains, especially, that's my favorite place to take pictures. I do a lot of close-up shots with flowers and things. Since I got a little bit better camera, I can focus in a little better and see the pollen right on the stamen and all that. It's really cool. Those are the shots I like. But when I'm in the mountains, it just feels like you're supposed to be taking pictures, that you're connected here. And the problem with it is that whenever I take a picture of a mountain, regardless of how beautiful it is when I'm there, it never does it justice. And even in some of the best pictures I've seen of some of the mountains that I've climbed, it still does it no justice being there and seeing it with your own eyes. So how is it that we can take an image that we're seeing with our actual eyes, and what's the best way to get it onto film?
Well, it's, obviously, it's definitely easier to capture a good image in overcast versus bright sun. Bright sun can kind of blow out an image. colors aren't quite right.
But the blue sky.
You
Get the
can't.
blue sky.
It's hard to get the green and the shadows and the blue sky all in the same image.
Mm-hmm.
So you can. There's tricks, polarizing filters and whatnot. I could say overexposing your image would be a good start to an easy way to capturing a good shot that's close to what you're looking at. A lot of times that if the picture doesn't do it justice, it's because it's not a good picture due to not a proper exposure.
Right. Well, let me ask you, Chuck, out of all the pictures that you've taken and the places that you've been, where has been your favorite place to take a picture? Was it a certain peak? Was it a certain valley? Was it, I don't know. What's your favorite?
Wow. I usually say
Could no choose a better star in the sky, right?
A loaded question.
Yeah.
I've taken a lot of cool pictures. I've been to Peru a couple of times. I visited Machu Picchu, and I've been there when it's been foggy and sunny. And so some of the imagery down there is just so saturated. And I bring back this picture, and it's like, there's no place on earth that looks like that. But there is. And then, of course, in Colorado, hiking through the mountains and taking pictures from summits, you get some pretty cool stuff. But that's not the only thing I take pictures of. Jamie's probably better at it than I do, but taking pictures of people are very interesting. I subscribe to this candid genre of photography where, people really don't see you taking their picture.
I love
you're
that.
behind a chair, or you're in another room, or you're kind of zooming in on them from a location they don't really see you at. You're very kind of unobtrusive, and what people are doing is unrehearsed, and there's this unveiled persona about them, and I like to capture that.
That's when you get the essence of them, right?
Exactly. I'd probably say those are my favorite. You can't really doctor those up. It is what it is. I mean, you can add color to it or add contrast, but not much more. With landscapes, you can do all sorts of doctoring up.
People are amazing. I've always had the human essence in my photos. Not always, I take that back. I did a big road trip a couple years ago, and I was on all these epically beautiful places, and it was so hard for me not to take great landscape shots because of the places I went. But I love photographing people, and you can, if you get somebody feeling comfortable with you, trusting you, you can get their true essence with them, knowing that you're shooting a picture of them.
They drop their guard.
They drop their. It's hard. There's a different.
Everybody walks around with the shield on constantly, right?
Yeah.
So it's hard to chip away at that, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Even if somebody's hiring you, they know that your work is good. That they're there to see you for a reason.
You still got to make them feel comfortable. And when somebody hires me, I obviously have to do that if I don't know them before, and it's somebody that just found me online or whatever. I only have so long, a short period of time to get them to feel comfortable instantly. And then there's the people that you've known forever, and you still got to get them to feel comfortable you taking a picture of them. Some of my favorite photographers that are a big inspiration to me are all portrait photographers from over the years. Mary Ellen Mark, Annie Leibovitz, Richard Avedon, Phil Burgess. There's some amazing photographers that have photographed people in America and all over the world over the years that are, and almost all of them are black and white. I'm a big fan of black and white photography. Something that, color can be distracting in a fun way, and they can add remarkable things to an image, but something about a black and white image of somebody's face or a moment in time, or family, or it's you take all the distractions aside and just got the the heart of that person or that moment.
While we're talking about color in black and white, I wanted to ask you both, can you take any normal, great color shot and edit it to be black and white, or do you like to shoot rather in black and white to see kind of what's going on?
No, I personally, I shoot raw color, and then I'll turn it black and white from
Okay.
there.
How about you, Chuck?
Yeah, that's true. I let the technology capture the different shades, different exposure, and then turn off color, and then now I have a grayscale to work with.
Now, back in the film day, I shot all black and white, but now in the digital, it's nice to have both options.
Mm-hmm.
That's the wonderful thing about technology. You can take a color image and make it sepia or antique looking or black and white.
We're talking about different places that you've been. Chuck, you mentioned Machu Picchu. Jamie, I know we were talking earlier a lot about Hawaii and Colorado and some other beautiful places, but do you think travel puts most people outside of their comfort zone? And when it does that, does a certain amount of humility help or hinder the shot that you're getting? And is it good to kind of get that personal filter removed off of your eye to kind of get the raw essence of what's going on where you're at?
I definitely think that it can hinder if you're not comfortable with where you're at or the experience. It's in any type of photography, whether you travel or not. And I could be at a show. I have a lot of friends who are musicians, and if I know the musician that's on stage, I have no fear about where I go or what angle I'm taking the shot.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not familiar with the crowd or the band that's playing and I'm shooting, I'm a little more reserved. Same thing goes with traveling. I wouldn't want to go travel somewhere and be there for 2 days and just snap around and take pictures of people. I don't think that's fair. I think it's important to immerse yourself in the environment. You feel comfortable and confident in where you're at. The pictures are going to show it.
How about you, Chuck? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, that's a good question. And that's an interesting perspective that Jamie has. And it reminds me of the objective observer versus the subjective observer. Traveling, you're in a strange place. It's a strange culture. Maybe you're with strangers. You kind of feel like an outsider, so you have this objectivity about you, and by nature, the type of picture you're taking, you're composing these objective views, and so when you show your photograph, the person looking at the photograph would say, "Oh, I kind of feel kind of outside looking in." On the flip side, you're brought into people's homes, they're sharing their food, they're taking you traveling with them to show you places and monuments and landmarks, and you're learning the language or you're learning the customs, and you're eating their food and the cuisine, and you're kind of with them, so you feel this homogeny with the people in your surroundings, and you start taking pictures, and that kind of comes through. So the viewer looking at your photograph says, "Wow, I feel like I'm part of this party. I feel like I'm like right there. It seems like I could have eaten that food that you took a picture of." So, in that respect, I think that the picture you take kind of reflects whether you're that objective observer or the subjective one.
Obviously, the more you travel and the more you do things like that, the more comfortable you are instantly. You can plop yourself into any situation and be one with it, with the experience of being around different people. But what you're talking about, that, being with a family and showing that in your pictures, it's making them feel comfortable, you're comfortable. When you have that comfortability, and like you're supposed to be there, like you're part of this family or this environment or this area, and it's letting go more than anything, without that fear of holding you back, that prevents you from being in the moment completely. And the more you let go, and the more you say, "This is, I'm a part of this," it shows in your pictures.
Speaking of fear, I'm just curious, with the technology, we were talking about technology earlier. Do you think that technology has hindered people from possibly traveling and seeing things with their own eyes because of the prevalence of viewing pictures until you die, like you said earlier, Chuck, or the amount of different television shows that, have photography that, I'm speaking specifically of like the Discovery Channel, like Life, Planet Earth, things like that, where there's amazing things that are available on television and the internet and books even, where people just get all their adventure from viewing a screen rather than going out and searching it for themselves.
That's totally subjective. It depends on the person. Somebody may look at that and say, "Holy crap, I need to go there. I have to go there right now."
That's how I am.
Exactly, that's how I am.
It just fuels my fire to get out there and go look at something.
I post, Facebook's been great for that, for sharing. National Geographic is another avenue for showing different places and different cultures. But every time I post pictures from all the places I go, either people will flip through them, and they'll tell me this, and they live vicariously through me. Because whatever's going on in their life, it prevents them from traveling, or they have a fear of leaving their own little bubble. And then there's other people, like today I got a email that said, "I'm going to Kauai with my mom. Can you suggest where to go?" And
hell yeah, right?
yeah, exactly. Hell yeah, I can. And, and I know that I have an impact or an influence on somebody traveling there from the pictures that I've posted. People tell me all the time, because of the places you go, I want to go there, and can you tell me what to do or where to go? And I love inspiring people to travel and to experience. But sometimes it's the opposite. I don't need to go. I can just watch it on TV.
Right.
From
on high definition.
From my living
that,
room.
I'm not going anywhere. Right?
Yeah.
Chuck, what do you think about that? The people that you know, and
I agree with Jamie. When you see pictures or when you see videos or when you see stuff on TV of places you want to go, whether it's a mountain in your home state or Hawaii or Machu Picchu or wherever, Africa, it's inspiring. People have access to technology. They can pick up a digital camera. They can spend money on the airfare and go down there and experience it for themselves. I think that people don't do that for other reasons, though, more economic, more demographic reasons why people don't.
Well, let me ask you, we're talking about economic and demographic, but I think there's a lot of people that, I live in Michigan, right? And in the Detroit area, we have very few places that have like a nature sanctuary around, but they are there. They're available. When I moved out to Colorado for a couple years and was out there, I was just immersed in mountains every day. Where the job I had took me into the mountains a lot. I would take the mountain routes and do my service and things in the mountains because that's where I wanted to be. That's where I love to be around. But I think a lot of people just kind of take things for granted sometimes, and they don't get out there and experience life. What do you think holds people back from going out there to wherever they're close to? And if you're in Iowa, that's got its own beauty. If you're in the East Coast on the seaboard, that's got its own beauty. Alaska obviously has its own beauty. So what do you think it is that keeps people on their couch from getting up? Do you think it's just sheer laziness, or where does that come from?
Yeah, that could be a combination of things. People are tied to their job. Some households have both parents working full time, and those households have children or teenagers, and so your time is literally consumed working and taking care of the family. And it's a luxury to go out to eat, or maybe to go to the park, or maybe take a drive somewhere to the landmark or into the mountains or whatever. I really do believe that that's what holds people back is those commitments. people need to make time to break away from that. Every morning when you wake up, you make time to brush your teeth. You make time for a shower. You make time to feed yourself. Those three things right there could take a half hour, 40 minutes. You know it's going to take that amount of time, and every single morning you carve out that amount of time. It's no different on a weekend. You're going to carve out 2 hours. If you're an extreme hiker, you're going to carve out, 16 hours, and you're going to do that a couple of times a month.
Right.
But you are dedicating your time to that, and you're setting the other stuff aside.
Sometimes people just can't physically do the things that you're doing.
Right.
Like hiking to the top of a 14er or...
Yeah, it's not for everybody. I will submit to that.
It's a bitch.
Yeah.
But it's so worth it once you get to the top. And, it's good to take a picture because it's a place that not very many people get to see the view from. And you get to show that. And sometimes people just, their work schedules or whatever. But, I have people in my life that the thought of climbing a mountain or the thought of doing a long hike or the thought of backpacking is not their cup of tea.
Yeah. I get that a lot. A lot of people call me crazy. I'm sure you get the same thing, Chuck, Jamie. I think
to Jamie's point, it could be a walk in the park. It could be a stroll down to the store. It could be a drive to a relative's house and spending time with them. Whatever is consuming your time away from those chains and those commitments that constantly keep you from doing anything otherwise.
That's true.
Gotcha. I know I'm very fortunate where I live in Michigan. If you're tuning in from Michigan and the Detroit area, you probably know what Hines Park is. And it's the Rouge River, and people joke about the Rouge because it actually used to catch on fire, the actual river. This is back in like the 80s and the 90s when pollution was a real problem. But, it's I actually, the house I'm moving into backs right up to this Hines Park, and I think it's probably like maybe 13 miles of woods. There's like a small strip that's cut out where this natural floodplain is. And for me, I got to get down there like once a week or, at least just to kind of get out there and unplug, just to kind of, just get in there with my iPod or go for a run or just a hike, take the dog
sanctuary.
out there. Yeah. And, I think more people could do with getting out there a little bit. I see a lot of people, really, just to be honest, just sitting on their ass.
Being lazy.
Laziness, there is a big portion of that, where I was alluding to earlier where, yeah, a lot of people, it's not their cup of tea to get out there, but I do think it's important, to keep a healthy mind is to connect with the environment a little bit. I mean, we're never actually even grounded. I was talking with my wife about this. They actually sell these things called earthing mats where it plugs into an electrical socket just to the ground portion, and you put your bare feet on it, and it actually grounds you. So, and I know for jet lag, it's a real common cure where people will get out and actually touch their bare feet to the earth. Not talking about on cement or the wood you're walking around in your house, but we're constantly surrounded by cement walls or brick.
That's the part of the technology that's kind of weird. Instead
of
going out to a park, taking your shoes off and putting your feet on the ground, you get this electrical thing you stick into a plug to sit on the ground. Because
you're working in an office 10 hours a day. A lot of people, they really can't get away. If you're working 50, 60 hours a week just to make ends meet, it presents its own problems. It's going to wear you down. You're not going to have the energy to get out. So, I try to live my lifestyle around somewhere where I can find that balance. And I wish that in our modern society, more people had that opportunity. I think a lot of people work to live instead of, or a lot of people work to live instead of live. No, I'm getting that wrong again. Let me try that one more time. A lot of people live to work instead of work to live. I try to take that mentality. I just want to work enough to where I'm able to keep my ends met, provide for my family, but I do need some time to decompress and get out there and kind of chill. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It would drive me crazy. I've been through times in life where I worked my ass off and I didn't have time to get out there, and it drove me crazy.
That's what I did for 8 years. I worked 6, sometimes 7 days a week, 12 to 14-hour days, and I finally said, "What am I doing?"
You crack eventually, right? I mean, there's a breaking point for everybody.
And I switched my lifestyle completely 3 years ago, and I don't make the money I used to make, but I'm happier than I've been in a long time.
Yeah, I think people get stuck in that, well, I need X, Y, Z to be happy, and they're missing the grand scheme of things where, you could be happy without that type of stuff. Chuck, what's your thoughts on that?
You're right. So happiness is a pursuit. You're looking for it. You think you've found it, and you feel comfortable with something or some things that you're doing, or people that you're seeing, or the relationship you're in, but you're still pursuing happiness. So you move on to something different, or you evolve into something different, and you pursue that, and that makes you happy, and that's how you grow. I had a job where, I accumulated vacation time, and I never used it. And
I know a few people
I thought
like
it was
that.
really cool to tell people I had, I have 6 weeks of vacation. And people are like, oh,
why?
My God,
Use that.
Why are you not anywhere else?
I had a director ask me one day, she goes, yeah, why do you have 6 weeks of vacation? And I'm like, well, just in case I need to take it.
In case I have a life-threatening illness and I can't make it to work, right?
So nowadays, I manage my vacation time a lot better. I actually take it more. And I'm doing things and getting out. I used to be very unhealthy. Used to weigh 250 pounds. I would come home and have queso and chips and beer for dinner. And I thought that was kind of cool. And then in the mornings, I would wake up and have these sugar-coated lattes. And just sit around at the office all day and hack away at the keyboard. I was a chimp at the keyboard. And after a while, it kind of wears on you. And you determine that, you need to do something.
Catches up to you, right?
Yeah, and there's an emphasis that
It shortens your lifespan, too.
Yeah.
The things that we do to our bodies, and we like it now, so we just, I won't worry about it. But, years down the road, you're just like, damn, if I was just a little bit smarter 40 years ago, I'd have another 10, 20 years of my life.
I think most of us have to learn the hard way. I think some people, they grow up and they're active and they stick with that. But more often than not, you play sports in high school and in college, and then, you get the 9-to-5 job and you're tired and you don't want to join a soccer league.
And your metabolism changes as you get older.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's not something you can get around, so you really have to work on keeping it up. It's not everybody out there is out there to be an Adonis or something like that. But, just when people start to let themselves go, it affects their self-esteem. It affects their health, obviously. We have a big epidemic in the country. I think the stats are 1 in 3 people are going to be obese and or diagnosed with diabetes now. And when you're talking about hard-hit urban areas, you're talking about 1 in 2, So I think there's definitely something to be said about, our eating habits and being healthy. But Chuck, what was your breaking point? What made you decide to get out of that type of pattern for yourself?
The mirror, primarily. I just didn't like the way I looked. It was disgusting.
You weren't the fairest one of them all?
When I was growing up in high school, I was very active. I played sports and lifted weights a lot, and I was really into bodybuilding, and I knew a lot about how the body worked and the metabolism and the physiological movements and how I can improve myself. I had that information. I had that knowledge. I used it at one time and applied it, but I wasn't doing it now, and I felt that I let myself down. So I had to make myself look better and feel better, of course. But another problem was this hiking hobby that I had. It was very, very difficult to get up the side of the mountain. It was very hard to get up to 14,000 feet when you're 250 pounds.
Carrying a lot of extra weight.
Especially in Colorado.
O2 levels are down.
In the 14ers, you have no oxygen.
Yeah.
So I had to do something, and that was to get in better shape and get even in better shape after that. So what I find is I have a connection. I want to hike, and I want to take pictures, and I want to be active. But in order to do that, I got to go to the gym, and I got to keep myself healthy, and I got to put proper food in my body. So there's a cause and effect.
I was in Vegas a couple weeks ago on a work trip, and I was able to see one of the exhibits called Bodies. They're hosting it at the Luxor. It has almost a permanent type of home there. They actually have a exhibit in Detroit that's going until May 27th, I believe, and they have one down in Texas, San Antonio or something like that, perhaps. But what it is they use a process called plasticization, and they take a corpse, somebody who donates their body to, art or science, whatever, the blend kind of is, and they remove all the fluids out of the body, they remove the skin, and they slice and dice, they take organs out and display those individually, and or they put these bodies into athletic positions and or sitting positions. Sometimes they're split in half. You can Google this, people. It's called the exhibit Bodies.
I've always wanted to go.
It's fascinating. I mean, it was a real paradigm change for me. I did a blog about it. It's on our website, intellectualgentlemensclub.com. And it really took me, like I said, it's a perspective change. I mean, I was in awe. I mean, I probably spent an hour and a half there just looking, and just my mouth gaped open. I was able to see a brain with a spinal column completely exposed with all the nerve tendrils going up, and tendons and muscles, and they had vivisections of bodies. They had, fetuses and different levels of development. There's all kinds of stuff there, and I think most people don't look at their body like an organic machine. You put garbage in, you're going to get garbage out. If you're eating fucking McDonald's every day, you're going to get fat, dude. It's just a matter of time. I'm sorry. Go watch Super Size Me. And that guy was eating it 3 times a day, but the same effect happens long term. And I think it's a real tragedy, especially in the United States, where these corporations have such a grip on our food supply. We went over this in episode 4, talking about Monsanto and McDonald's and Coca-Cola and things like that. And I don't think that they're inherently evil, but I think that people really don't have the self-control that they need to. And when you compile that with billions and billions of dollars of advertising dollars, and marketing that type of material, I think it's really a losing battle, unfortunately.
Well, Ronald McDonald became a vegetarian.
Well, he's in good company with me, I guess. I'm still on my vegetarian kick. It's been a few months, but I don't think that's sustainable for me. I'm too big of a guy. I just, I haven't been craving it, but it's definitely something that's a difficult thing to do.
I've been vegetarian for many, many years. I'm pescatarian now. I eat fish and seafood. But I quit eating meat back in 98, the end of 98. And I'm not against it. It's not like it's a...
Yeah, nor am I.
Yeah, I'm not against it.
I'm against some of the inhumane practices that go into the meat supply.
Absolutely. I could go on with that, but that's a whole other subject.
That's a different podcast, right?
But, yeah, right. But, more importantly, it's the stuff that's pumped into the meat. And also, cutting it out. If I was to eat meat again, I would eat nothing but free-range organic meat. I don't think I would be disciplined enough in order to just eat that. It'd be too easy to get a greasy burger from God knows where the meat came from. But the biggest benefit of cutting meat out of my diet is that I don't eat fast food. I don't eat junk.
That's a good point.
It's
hard to find. If you go to a fast food joint, you're not going to want their fucking salad, I tell you that.
No.
If you go into a McDonald's and order a salad, it's like 5 weeks old and it's been kept alive from nitrogen. It just tastes like shit.
when a French fry, if you eat a French fry, can last and hold the same shape
Decades.
for decades.
Same with the burgers. Same with the buns. I mean, it's not even real food, really. It's
The biggest
preserved.
benefit, though, is the eating healthy. My fast food, my junk food would be Subway.
Yeah. Chuck, how about you? Erle?
I'm still a junk food eater at heart, but I do it in moderation. I mean, queso and chips, that's always a treat.
And beer?
Chocolate. I'm looking at a shelf in my closet that I have a little box of chocolates on, so I'll sneak those every once in a while. It's all in moderation. I
Right.
usually don't eat after 6 o'clock at night. If I do, it's a protein shake before I go to bed.
That's smart. That's what my sister talks about. Was a personal trainer for years. She talks about not eating right before you go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
And if you make a fist, that's a serving of food right there, and just think,
That's
whatever
not
food.
enough for me, man. I don't know what you're talking about.
We both held up our fists. We're like,
No, I agree. I understand the concept behind that. But it is.
So if you have that sitting in your gut, then, you need much more. I mean, how many more fists of food do you need sitting in your gut at one time?
How many can fit?
I remember years ago, I was in college. We used to go every Sunday out to Lake Michigan from Kalamazoo. We'd drive out to Lake Michigan, 45-minute drive. We'd go to the secluded part. Nobody would be out there. And
Warren Dunes?
No, not there, but
Okay.
north of there. I've
Okay.
been there too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, this particular trip, we did go to Warren Dunes. Now that I think
I
about
like
it.
to frequent that. Every time I go to Chicago, I try and take a 15-minute meditation
It's
session
beautiful.
at the beach. It's great.
All those sand dunes. Then you got beautiful Lake Michigan, which is the size of an ocean. For those of you that aren't from this area, I've been on an airplane going over Lake Michigan, and I've heard somebody sitting next to me going, "What ocean is this?"
That's fucking hilarious.
But I remember going with a bunch of friends, and we were all climbing. It's tough climbing a sand dune. It's a lot of work. Well, we were young, 19, totally capable. We got to the top of the sand dune, but I had a friend who couldn't make it, and she knew she couldn't make it. And I was so sad. I got to the top of the sand dune and looking at the most spectacular sunset. And all I could think about was wanting to put her in a bubble and being able to float her to the top of this. And what was preventing her from getting to the top of the sand dune was her weight and her health. And that's something that definitely, Chuck, I'm sure this is, where you're at the first time that you climbed a 14er. I'm sure that you wanted to be capable and able to do that again and again and again.
Exactly.
With eating at night, the munchies is what always kills me. So I got to learn to back off a little bit. So
Quit smoking.
I might be a vegetarian, but it doesn't matter if you're pounding, anything else to an extreme. So that's where I really got
I had a
back on.
cabbage.
What'd you say?
What was that, Chuck?
Oh, I was going to say, if you're a vegetarian, you're still going to eat a head of cabbage if you're eating to the extreme.
True.
It's 9 o'clock at night. I'm a vegetarian, but damn, I'm hungry, and then here goes that head of cabbage down your gut.
Yeah. But I think probably the best way that anybody can be an inspiration for other people is, we're talking about Facebook and sharing things like that, but I think that ultimately the best way you can be an inspiration for people is, be the change you want to see in the world. That's what Gandhi said, and
Absolutely.
But, if you're doing things that resonate to you and you're being true to yourself, I think people see that. And, whether you're a mountain climber or whether you're, people told me I'm crazy for running the Tough Mudder, you're hiking a 14-mile trail in Hawaii or whatever you're doing, it's inspiring to people to know that people that are out there that are doing it. So that's my thoughts about it.
It is. With Facebook and social networking, and all the little gadgets and little features that you can do with these platforms, I check into my gym every morning. And it was just a way for me to make my daily post. People are posting junk all the time.
I don't
5,
care
6,
about what
7,
you
8
had
times
for
a day.
lunch.
They're sharing links and they're commenting all over the place. And I don't have time to do that a lot. So every morning I would get up and I would be on the stair stepper and I would say my little thing in the morning and I would tag it to the place I was at. And I never really thought much of it, but I would do that every single day. And, after about 6, 7, 8 months, people were like, damn, what inspirational thing are you going to see tomorrow?
Right.
And I'm like, what? I didn't know I was saying inspirational things. I was just putting stuff down that came to mind as I was exercising.
But you know what? When
But
you
people
have a positive attitude and you are posting positive things, there are so many negative people out there that you're drawn to it's like a magnet. That person that's laughing in a crowd, that's the person everyone's surrounding. You're drawn to that positivity.
There's an energy behind somebody like that, I think.
Yes, absolutely. And you're giving back by spreading your pretty pictures or your awesomeness or your smile or the awesome sayings or quotes that you're posting. I think or educational things that you're posting.
Speaking of inspiration, Jamie, last year you went through some serious trauma after, at Burning Man. Let's put it, before the man burned. Take us through that and how you kind of got through that, because I followed you on Facebook and, I saw your posts and you're always fucking smiling no matter what seems to be happening. So how did you get through that? Take us through what kind of situation you were in. I mean, we went through the gory details earlier.
We did. I won't go through all that
I wish we
stuff.
could have time for everything, but
attitude's everything. I ended up shattering my leg 2 pieces, my tibia and fibula. I was monkeying around on a giant geodesic dome doing gymnastic stuff at Burning Man.
sober, right?
Sober, I was. Everyone's like, "What drugs were you on? Were you drunk?" No, it's
Not then.
Not then. Maybe if I was, I wouldn't have been doing what I was doing. No, I was fully aware of my actions and what I was doing. I had just made an error. And I got in a position that I couldn't get out of, dangling about... Oh, Lordy, did that sound bad? I was dangling in an awkward, precarious position about 20 feet above hard, salt, flat ground. For those of you that have never been out to Burning Man, it's a magnificent thing that's out in the middle of nowhere, out in the middle of the desert, in the middle of salt flats in Nevada. 50-something thousand people get together from all over the world, and they create this magnificent city. And all these art projects are made, and temples are built, and it's amazing what people put together out there. It's amazing. But there's all these wonderful things you can climb and do. And I used to be in gymnastics, so I was doing a bunch of crazy things that when I look back at it now, what was I thinking? Because it's over. There's no net. Salt flat ground is very unforgiving. It's like crumbled rock. And I got in a position I couldn't get out of, and I was forced to make a decision. There were some things I could have done to get out, and I would have gotten out unscathed. But the consequence of me slipping midway through was me breaking my neck or paralyzing myself or landing on my head and killing myself. So I had, it was one of the scariest things I've ever been in, when you're hanging precariously over.
That was my reaction, Chuck.
Yeah. And I realized I was stuck and I couldn't get out. I was like, fuck, this is going to hurt. I ended up having to, I tried to get out of it. And then I made the smart decision, which was no good outcome. The outcome was this: I'm going to break my legs, and I'm going to have to let go, and I'm going to have to drop, and I'm going to have to straighten myself out and land on my feet. But when you drop 20 feet on crumbled rock, there's no way out of breaking your legs. And
oh my God.
Yeah, they're surprised that I didn't break both my legs. I landed slightly on my left, and my foot bone jammed up into my tibia and fibula, and the shock of it shattered those leg bones to pieces. And
The X-rays are brutal, people. Brutal.
This sounds brutal.
And I'm out in the middle of nowhere, 3 hours away from the nearest hospital in the nearest city. And luckily, they had X-ray first year that they had X-ray capabilities. But It was like 4 hours later by the time I was leaving to head to the hospital. It was 7 hours before I got to a hospital. They had only given me 2 ibuprofen. Luckily, I was able to smoke a J and calm down.
Word.
Thank God. I don't know what I would have done without that little bit of
Little kick.
Relaxation. Anyways, it was a crazy experience. I had 2 major surgeries. I ended up living out of a wheelchair. I'm a very active person, so for that to be taken away from me was devastating. I had fucked myself up. I was told that I will feel this for the rest of my life. I may never be able to do a backpacking trip without, a simple hike could leave me very sore. And I was pissed. I was very pissed because I did it to myself. And it was a lot of work. I was disabled for 7 months. I couldn't work. I'm blessed to have magnificent people in my life. I don't know what I would have done without the people I have in my life. And yes, I did document it, and I did post it all over Facebook, and I got a bunch of support and a lot
It was very inspiring.
It was very inspiring because that's so I hear, because a lot of people, what they saw through this tragicness was a smile on my face. And I was at the Harborview Medical Center in Seattle. It's one of the top orthopedic trauma clinics. And of course, I had no insurance. I'm self-employed, and I'm away from my family, no boyfriend, and disabled, living out of a wheelchair. Not a good situation to be in. But they said that I was Harborview's happiest patient that they've ever had. The doctors and nurses are magnificent. Even the ones in Reno, and then the Burning Man crew, the medical doctor staff there was great. But the biggest thing that I went through was relearning how to walk again, and being able, and not letting this injury overtake me and prevent me from living my life. And simple things like walking to a bathroom. It was very painful. I remember my breaking point. I have a smile on my face and I have a great attitude all the time, but everybody goes through their breaking points. And my roommate at the time, bless her heart, she was amazing. I don't know what I would have done without her. She got me to my doctor's appointment. She fluffed my pillows and gave me ice packs, and she was awesome. Now, one day she wasn't home, and I had to get to the bathroom, and I'm looking at the wheelchair, and I'm on the couch, so my foot elevated above my heart. It was very piercing pain to have it below my heart. I was so swollen, and the blood flow and everything. And it took me 20 minutes to get to someplace that should have been 5 seconds to walk to. I had to do micro movements of getting myself from the couch onto the wheelchair. And I sat on a board on the wheelchair because I had my foot elevated, and I wheelchair over to the bathroom and try to shimmy it in the bathroom. And then to get from the bathroom from the wheelchair to the toilet, I was drenching in sweat by the time that I got there. And I was on the toilet.
Hey, you didn't piss your pants, right?
No, I didn't.
Perfect.
But I broke down in tears out of the frustration more than anything of how
helpless you were?
How helpless I was. So it was a big mission for me to do what I needed to do to overcome this and be able to walk and hike and do the things that I love. And I'm blessed to have a magnificent physical therapist and wonderful people in my life, and a zest for life to get through this. And I did. And I worked my ass off through all my exercises and everything I needed to do. I still don't have all my movement back, and it hurts. I just had to go to the bathroom really bad, and I ran to the bathroom, and I was in pain. just jogging to the bathroom.
Yeah,
but
the studio bathroom's quite a distance.
It is. Anyways, my biggest thing that I did though was there was this trail in Kauai called the Ka'alau Trail, and it's a 11.5 mile journey to paradise, and it is one of the top 10 most difficult, dangerous trails in the world. And it's not that long, but it's 3,000 feet up, 3,000 feet down, 25 feet 100 up, 25 feet 100 down.
Kind of sounds like right up our alley, Chuck.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh, and you cross several rivers, and people die on this trail every year for various reasons. And it's like 8 inches wide most of the way, and it's a sheer cliff drop off on one side, and you got a cliff wall on the other side, and you're carrying a big backpack full of your gear. And
perfect.
Yeah, and it's very rocky, and it's crazy. It's beautiful. But when I saw pictures of this trail, again, back to photography. I saw photos from a friend's shitty digital camera, and I was like, holy crap, I got to go there, and I need to bring my camera, and I have to go. And the first time I tried going was back in 2010. Me and 2 friends, we flew in from 3 different states to hike this trail. They both had been. I had never been. And they had closed the trail down for the first time in 30 years for trail restoration. Go figure. So
Bummer, dude.
I know. But before the wheels even hit on the airplane, on the ground, I was like, well, I already know I got to be back because I got to hike this trail. So we just gallivanted around Kauai doing other things. And I wanted to go back the following winter to hike this trail, and I shattered my leg to pieces. And now here I am with this news that I may not even be able to do a simple hike without.
You're a forever gimp, right?
Forever a gimp.
That's what they're telling you.
Yeah. I got a whole bunch of metal in my leg, and people were calling me the Bionic Woman. The funny thing is that my mom named me after the Bionic Woman. That was her favorite TV show, and Jamie Summers was the actress's name.
We come full circle, people.
Exactly. So second time I shattered my leg, I had to cancel that trip, and I was like, okay. So now my mission was I will not let this injury overcome me. I will get through this. I documented the whole process. I was going to all my doctor's visits with a camera in my hand, in a wheelchair, photographing, and my roommate was helping me, obviously, and at the time, the whole process. And I told myself, I will overcome this. I will get the muscles back in my leg. I will be able to get enough movement back in my leg, and I am going to hike this damn trail. And I did, way sooner than they even thought possible for me to be capable of doing that. In January, I spent a month in Kauai, and it was the most physically challenging thing I've ever had to do in my life. I had 60 pounds on my back. Just 2 months prior to that, I did a simple 2-mile hike, and a 2-mile hike sent me limping dramatically at the end of it. And my friend who I went on this trail with, he was shaking his head after a 2-mile hike. He was like, how are you going to do this? He'd hiked the Colorado Trail many times, and he's like, there's no way you're going to be able to do it. And I said to him, absolutely, I'm going to. I will be ready. Don't you fret. I will get there. And it normally takes a very excruciating 7 to 8 hours to do this hike. Obviously, it's a lot easier when you don't have a lot of stuff, but we were going to be back there for 2.5 weeks. Shh. You're only supposed to be back there for 5 nights at a time.
Pay no attention, Hawaii officials. Pay no attention.
And you need enough food for 2.5 weeks, and that's where a lot of the weight was. And anyways, it took me 2 full days, 2 full excruciating days. And by the time I got to the end, and I had a breaking point. I was talking to Jason earlier about that on mile 3. He had a similar experience
for sure
on one of his journeys, but when I made it, I was in tears. I did it. I proved to myself, no matter how many doctors or nurses said that I may never be able to do something. It's not like they weren't giving me hope to do that. They were just being a realist, that I'll have issues for the rest of my life. But when I got to the end, I had tears running down my cheeks, and ecstatic feeling like I made it. And then you're at the most majestic place that you could ever imagine being. It's beautiful, and it's a place that not very many people can get to, because it's a hard hike, worth every excruciating step. And I will be back. I'm going back in October, and I'm pumped. But overcoming and with a great attitude, with a smile on your face, is so I've been told, is very inspiring. And
it's the determination too. I mean, you were determined, and it was a drive, and you had that in your belly. Or wherever it was.
Yeah.
You were committed. So it's the commitment and the determination. It's that thing that just kept you focused on that. That's inspiring.
When you have a goal in mind, what I've learned is that when you put your mind to something, you're capable of more than you can even imagine. The sky's the limit on what you're capable of doing. If you can fixate your mind on something and say, this is what I want, I can feel it in the pit of my gut and my stomach, and do whatever it takes. I'm not just talking about my injury. I'm talking about anything in life.
You gotta fucking want it, man.
Yeah, if you want something bad enough, and even if you don't think if you're capable of doing it, if you shoot for the stars, at least you'll land on the moon, right?
True that. Oh, man. I wanted to bring up a little bit more of the mountains. I wanted to give a shout out to 14ers.com and Jerry Roach. I originally picked up Jerry Roach's book at the Colorado Springs Library when I lived out there. And I had no idea that I would ever find this guy on Facebook or even have conversations with him or see his pictures or whatnot, but I do today. And that website and his book were like the Bible for me to get up to the mountains. When I was out there, I had a hernia for like 5 years, an inguinal hernia, and there was no way I was going to be climbing up there. But after my surgery was done, I was dedicated. You know, just even a couple days after I could get out of bed, I went out to the garage and was just lifting a weight bar, empty, no weights, just getting prepared. And it took me, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 weeks before I was getting ready, and I did a test hike. But when I got on top of Mount Princeton, my first 14er, it was like Providence. You know, there was nothing like it. I'd never seen anything like that. I drove up to the top of Pikes Peak, but that ain't the same. You know, when you work your ass off, Chuck, you know, to get up to the top there, on a class 2, for your first climb, it was something that, you can't buy shit like that. You know, you have to give it all, and you have to, just push on and try and not leave anything behind you.
I know that.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Nope, it's your turn.
I was just going to say, regarding Princeton specifically, that's just a big pile of rock.
Yeah. I was
it's
shocked.
not like
yeah.
You're rock hopping the entire time, boulder hopping almost in some spots.
Mm-hmm.
So that's incredible.
I know that it's a whole nother experience, and you guys too, when you've earned your trip to the top of that mountain or whatever.
You do earn it, yeah.
You worked your ass off to get up to there, and once I got back, for my personal experience, I mean, I've hiked a lot, and I've done many, climbed the tops of lots of mountains and stuff. But when you do that, a big trip, like this trail, for instance, I know you can do in the summertime. You can kayak or you can boat in. I would never want to do that. First of all, there's a lot more people there. Second of all, it's
an easy way out, right?
It's an easy way out. I told myself once I got to the back, it was so tough to hike back there. But once I did it, I said, there's no way that I would do this any other way than to hike this. Because once you get there, it's like, wow. And everybody that hikes back there, they have the same look on their face, like, I made it. And you appreciate that majestic valley and that space that you're at because of what it took to get there. And then not to mention that you're going to a place that not very many people are. So it's beautiful. I mean, southern Utah, there's all these magnificent national parks. I love southern Utah.
Canyonlands.
Arches, Zion, Bryce, all those are magnificent. And what's shocking is that 3% of the population actually, only 3% of the population actually does any of the back loop trails or the trails. So when I've been there, it's great for the 3% because when you're hiking, you have this whole majestic valley and these canyons and this whole area to yourself.
Yeah, but Jamie, didn't you see it 127 hours? You're gonna lose your fucking arm if you go in the backcountry. I mean, shit can happen, right? But
yes, but it's
you got to get out there and see it.
Yes.
I mean, there's always a risk involved, but without any great risk, you're not going to get any great reward.
And you know what? There's a sense of, I've never been baptized. Whoa. Is that a kid? That was a wonderful.
That was a little munchkin of mine.
All right.
I love it.
Glad she's feeling better, Chuck.
We were talking about, this being spiritual and having a sense of Jason and I were chatting about having a sense of a higher power. When you go to a place like that at the top of a 14er and you're by yourself and you're looking out at God's creation.
Yeah, it's magnificent.
It's magnificent. It's the same thing I felt being out in the middle of nowhere in southern Utah in these national parks with nobody around. I have this whole magnificent, I've always had these wonderful spiritual experiences. I don't know what to call them other than a spiritual experience. That has left like the hair on my arm standing up.
Well, I think we're past our hour mark, and I like to keep it at about an hour, but usually these things go over a little bit because because the conversation's just good. But Chuck, do you have any upcoming projects you're doing with photography? Anything on deck here that you wanna pimp out?
I'm just kind of working on the page I have. I don't have a website. I don't pay for hosting. I'm using Facebook, a Facebook business page as my photography site because it's free hosting. And if you do some metrics on Facebook, their reach could be upwards to 1 billion people. Is it really 1 billion people? Probably not. It's more like maybe 1 billion accounts.
Right.
But so I'm working to develop the page itself, and I've put a couple of feelers out for a content manager. So the project I have ultimately is to increase my fan share, to produce content that people are interested in, to be interactive with the fans and the followers. But ultimately, I have tens of thousands, I don't know, maybe hundreds of thousands of photographs, of images, of photo stock. And I want to create an auction or interest in those. And this may sound kind of funny, but I kind of view this collection of pictures I have as a sack of potatoes. Each picture is a potato. And I got stacks and stacks and stacks of these potatoes. So my project is to start selling those off in whatever way I can. And so this content manager would be responsible for that as well. It's not an inspiring project, but it's something that's going to be keeping me busy, and it promotes the hobby that I have, and it promotes my Image Dimension Photography Facebook page. So hopefully some good things will come out of that. There's some other I guess you could call them wilderness sites, national park sites, and they all link to my page as well. They like the stuff that's coming out of Colorado, so when they get viewers that are interested in Colorado, they link over to my page. So it's generating a lot of traffic, and that's kind of exciting.
Cool. Jamie, how about your upcoming projects?
For work, obviously I do other things, but I have my personal projects. This journey that I went through in the last year and a half with my leg, and the Kala Trail, I just did that in January. I'd like to do something with all the photos I took. I wrote a lot too. I wrote every day. The valley brings out amazing things. My friend that I went, he's a singer-songwriter. Pete Kurtzunas is his name. Nice little plug. You should check him out. And he has the same experience being back there. The creativity just flows out of you and oozes out of you. And I'm not a writer, but I wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote. I haven't kept a journal in years, and I'd like to do something with whatever I was writing and the photos I took. I'll be back in October to work on it some more. A few years ago, when I had closed down my other business that I had, cut the umbilical cords and kind of did my own thing. I hit the road for 6 weeks and 2 days on a journey where me and my dog and my camera equipment, we hit the road and wherever the wind blew us. And I had came back and I made a little coffee table photo book called 6,800 Miles with Phoenix. There's not much text in it. There's an intro that talks about the love of a furry companion and how amazing they are.
Oh, yeah.
I never really felt like it was a solo road trip. My dog couldn't talk to me, but her spirit exuded. And she had passed away about 9 months after that trip. So I'm glad that I have, which was heart-wrenching, but I'm glad that I have that experience in that book. And I'd like to put something together again with this new journey of mine and the trials and tribulations that I went through and the photos that I took out there. And I'm not sure what. I'm just kind of going through the photos and what I wrote, and something will be pulling out of that soon. And I hope to maybe make another book and have a little photo show as well.
Cool. Well, I want to thank you both for being here. Jamie, you came all the way from Seattle, but you didn't come just for the IGC.
No, but it's
for work and family, so I can't take all that credit. But thanks for being here. I appreciate you coming in. Chuck, thanks for being on the line here with us from beautiful Colorado. I want to give a couple shout outs for you guys. Before we get to your stuff real quick, there's two guys that I really like their mountain photography. You should check them out. They're on Facebook as John Karp Photography. That's with K-A-R-P. And Matt Payne Photography. They both take some amazing shots. So, but our listeners here, you can find Chuck Erle, E-R-L-E, on Facebook. You can find Jamie VanBuhler, VanBuhler. It always trips me up, but I always get it right.
VanBuhler.
Yeah. Chuck's page is Image Dimension Photography, and Jamie's page is Visual Life, all one word, photography.
I also have a website.
Yeah, bring it.
It's jvanbuhler.com. Please check it out.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
nicely done. It is.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
And you got your gallery on there, and there's a lot of different things, cool stuff that you got on there. I also want to, just shout out again, 14ers.com. And they also have a Facebook group. It's 14ers.com, the group. So you can add yourself if you want to get on there and see some cool mountain stuff, or if you have any questions about people who frequent 14ers, or if you just want to see some inspirational shit on there. Bill Middlebrook does a great job of bringing that to everybody. So I'm going to have links in the description when the podcast is released here. So if you're viewing it on iTunes, or listening on iTunes rather, you can check the notes. It'll be on our website, intellectualgentlemen'sclub.com. You can discuss with us. Visit the website. Check out the blog. I throw one up there every once in a while. And all the podcasts are located on there with direct downloads. We really appreciate subscribers on iTunes and other podcast directories. And if you like the podcast, it would really be cool if you hit up iTunes and give us a review and or a rating. That really helps the metrics, so I'm told. We have a Twitter page. We are at IGCcast, and our Facebook page is Intellectual Gentlemen's Club. You can find that. It'll come up as a health and wellness website. I put all kinds of interesting stuff on there, and have a couple other people that do the same. On our website, we have a donate button. Just this week, we had I Am Detroit. They made us some stickers. They're 3x3 stickers with the logo. So any donation on there at any denomination gets you at least one sticker. If you want, just request and I'll send you more for free. It's no problem. I just want to kind of get those out there. So there's a new swag page on the website, and go to that, and you can get your stickers from there. We have the donate button for PayPal. It's just credit cards. It's very easy. You can throw it in there, and that's how you get your sticker. And we'll give you sweet internet kisses for doing that. We have some Google ads on the page. Usually they're junk, but they're, a couple clicks here and there help. And we have an Amazon link. If you're going to purchase anything through Amazon, through your wish list, or you have anything to purchase through there, if you go to the Intellectual Gentlemen's Club website, you'll see the Amazon link on the right side. If you click through that, it's a portal to get into Amazon, and anything you purchase in that session gets us a kickback. It doesn't cost you anything additional. It comes out of Amazon's pocket, so it works out great. Please share the podcast on Facebook, on Twitter, on the website. Throw an email to your buddy. Just wanted to get this good word out. Some likes help, and just comment with us. Our music, once again, is brought to you by Secrets. You can find him on SoundCloud. That's SECRETS. And that's about all I got. You guys got anything else?
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, I really appreciate you guys being here. Thanks, Chuck.
It's been a marvelous experience. Jason, as always, it's a pleasure interacting with you, and your project is very inspiring. Jamie, you have an excellent voice, and very, very soothing throughout. So, and next time you're in Denver, let's hook up.
Absolutely.
And, to the best of you and to the best of Jason.
It was very nice to meet you, Chuck. Enjoy that sunshine. I sure do miss that Colorado sun.
Yeah, and hopefully I'll be able to get out there and get another 14ers happy hour under my belt with you and Mandy and Noel and Mr. Surf and Turf, Jeff Golden, and all those crazy cats out there. So appreciate everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next time. Hang loose, guys.
Catch you on the flip side.
All right, thanks.